Alright, today I want to talk to you about the forbidden physical act. Yes, you hear me right. It's Adam and Eve stuff. Alright, don't panic. There's no need to leave the room now. You know, the morning has just begun. And you can stop squirming in your seats right now. It's going to be fine. And you can stop glancing over at your neighbor to check whether, you know, they're judging you for just being here. It's going to be fine, like I said, and the suffering is not going to be long, I promise you that. Alright, so it's a truth universally acknowledged that we all have our hang-ups when it comes to this sensitive subject. We sublimate these thoughts and impulses because they are unknown, unpredictable, and downright terrifying. And so we resort to all kinds of psychological tricks to deal with them. Right, case in point. What is this? Banana. But you say that with a smile on your face, so I'm pretty sure you're not thinking of the banana. Right, so why are you laughing? Shall I tell you why you're laughing? Okay, you're laughing because you have internalized this as a symbol. Alright, you've substituted something unspeakable in your head with this innocent piece of fruit. That's what you've done. Shame on you. Alright, so I should be making you feel guilty about this, you know, because after all, it's a natural response, it's a natural reaction. This is how we deal with unpalatable subjects. We transform them into innocuous symbols. Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher, said that man is a semi-animal. At least he was a semi-animal until civilization stepped in and domesticated him, forcing him to be sociable and pacific. All his illicit instincts were then interiorized. As a consequence, man began to terrorize himself. The caged animal. I actually prefer the word warrior because, you know, it's more noble sounding. The caged warrior then became the inventor of something called bad conscience. Right. In my family, we simply call it guilt. Spelled out in holy capital letters, guilt. Right. But guilt is hardly the natural state for man. You see, according to Nietzsche, mental health is Apollo and Dionysus balanced. Is reason on the one hand, instinct on the other. All psychological conflicts are the result of the suppression of man's natural aggressive instincts by civilization, the collective you, which Sigmund Freud would later on call superego. So ladies and gentlemen, that's your Psychology 101 for this morning. Yes, well, just out of curiosity, what happens when this warrior is silenced? Any ideas? I mean, have you thought about this? I mean, granted, it's not something that you think about every day, right? I'm going to share with you a bedtime story that my grandma used to tell me when I was little. It's about a stuttering boy growing up in in wartime Japan. He was a strange figure. I mean, he despised both his parents, didn't get along with his peers at all, and quite predictably was terrified of the opposite gender, shall we say. And so when he became infatuated with a girl older than him, and she rejected him and laughed in his face, imagine the pain, he cursed her and wished that she would die. And ironically, she was killed by her boyfriend shortly after. Well, this was World War II, terrible things happened. And he felt vindicated, his hatred for her was validated by the murder. But there was still all this forbidden energy, stirring in him. The warrior was waking up. What was he to do with that? You see, when he was a boy, he heard stories, plenty of stories from his father about a certain temple in Kyoto whose beauty was unparalleled. He had envisioned it to be the most beautiful sight he had ever laid his eyes on. A temple looking something like this. Right. you're going to ignore the nerdy guy in blue right now. I'm just going to, yeah, we're going to focus on the building behind him, okay? So, when the boy's father died, he became an acolyte at the temple. And now that he was in close proximity to the temple, his appreciation quickly turned into obsession, you see. He began to see the temple everywhere he went, day and night. He saw it in his dreams, and he even saw it when he wasn't in its presence. He admitted to himself, the first problem I faced in my life was that of beauty. At one point, he was trying to make love to a girl. You know, teenagers do that manga art, especially when no one is watching. So he was trying to make love to this girl, and then he found himself unable to perform. And it's because the image of the temple loomed large in his vision and distracted him from the act. That boy had a serious problem. Beauty had overwhelmed him, you see, and this is what he had to say about beauty. Never had the temple displayed so hard a beauty that transcended my own image. Yes, that transcended the entire reality, rejecting every sort of meaning. Right, what does that mean? It sounds kind of deep. Yeah, what that means is our boy just realized that beauty, something that he had placed so much emphasis on, something that had become the focal point of his desire, you see, was in fact nothing more than meaningless appearance. It's empty, and it's entirely without purpose. Around this time, he was becoming disillusioned with temple life, especially with the superior, who was seeing geisha on the side. That's not right. And he even found himself physically abusing a pregnant girl on temple grounds. You see, his anger, or his frustrations, in fact, were turning into anger, and his anger was making place for nihilistic inclinations. And this is what you have to say next. Beauty, beautiful things, those are now my most deadly enemies. Alright, so what do you do to your deadly enemies? I hope you don't have any. But if you have some, what do you do to them? You destroy them, of course. But in this case, it's destruction by fire. Our boy decided to set the temple on fire one night. And as the temple was going up in flames, alright, he lit a cigarette. And he said to himself that he would continue to live, now that beauty, appearance, and desire were ashes. Alright, that wasn't a story that my grandma told me. Goodness no. Imagine that. I would have drawn out this area now. That was actually the plot of a world-famous novel entitled The Temple of the Golden Pavilion, published in 1956. In order to make sense of what I've just told you, we need to examine the life of its author, Yukio Mishima. For the Japanese among you, Mishima Yukio. So, Mishima didn't have a normal childhood. He wasn't brought up by his parents. He was brought up by his domineering grandmother, Natsuko, who would forbid him to go outdoors to play with boys his own age. He was only allowed to play with his female cousins and their dolls. I mean, imagine the damage done to this boy. After he turned 12, he was returned to his father, who was a very stern man with a military background. By this time, Mishima's writing talent was emerging. But his father forbade him to write because writing, according to him, was a feminine preoccupation. And so Mishima continued to write, but in secret. World War II came. He was enlisted as a soldier, but he soon found out that he was unfit for service due to ill health. You know, that's another blow to his manhood. But the biggest blow of all was his becoming aware that he might just be homosexual or bisexual. Right, this fact was never confirmed or established by himself or his biographers. I mean, after all, he did go on to marry a woman who bore him 2 children. But we know for a fact that he spent the rest of his life trying to suppress that warrior. by overcompensating. By taking up bodybuilding, for example, there are plenty of pictures online of him, flexing his muscles. By taking up kendo, he was basically trying to work on the exterior warrior instead. And his fiction deals with themes such as ostracism, masochistic fantasy, obsession with beauty, and decline of the body. He wanted to bring back the divinity of the emperor after World War II. He also wanted to introduce or reintroduce Bushido, the samurai way of life and code of conduct, and traditional Japanese values, because he felt that Japan after World War II had been emasculated by peace and defeat. His art was no longer a relief for him. He understood writing to be a feminine preoccupation after all. And art is beauty, and beauty, as we've already seen, is totally without meaning and purpose. And so he sought another outlet, politics. In politics. And he prided himself on being a right-wing ultra-nationalist. And it was in politics that he was defying his Platonic ideal. And so, on November 25th, 1970, he, along with 4 of his disciples, by this time he had amassed a small army of followers, attacked the headquarters of the self-defense forces in Tokyo with the intention of instigating a coup d'etat. During his speech from the balcony, addressing the soldiers down there, trying to convert them, he was laughed at and jeered at because his words were so outrageous and completely out of touch with reality. Humiliated, he retreated into the office, and while in there, he gave himself over to the ultimate self-sacrificial ritual of seppuku, or harakiri. And this is where the defeated warrior drives a short sword into his belly while kneeling down, in, across, up, slices it open, while the comrade, the kaishakunin, standing behind him, would decapitate him with one swing of the gundo, the military sword. In Mishima's case, it wasn't a quick death. The comrade that he had chosen to do the deed was inexperienced and botched the act. Right, so this was how Mishima entered the Hall of Infamy. Unlike the acolyte in the Temple of the Golden Pavilion, his repression of the warrior led to self-annihilation. Imagine what a legacy he would have left behind, a legacy greater than the one we have now, right? Had he faced or confronted the warrior straight on. Imagine what an international icon he would have become had he won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1968, for which he was bypassed due to his unsavory political reputation. Imagine another Japanese literary giant, Murakami Haruki, and I'm sure there are fans out there. Imagine Mr. Murakami being his advocate rather than his foremost critic. I mean, imagine all of that. The warrior is alive and well in each one of you out there. I mean, you can run, but for how long can you really hide? When he does find you, what are you going to say or do to this ancient soul? Thank you very much.